Welcome to Coeur d'Alene. This is one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. And I feel very fortunate as an artist that has worked here for about 10 years to have had the joy of discovery of a beautiful lake and a river just hidden away in Idaho, way up in the North Country. We welcome you today. We're going to do a drawing of a special spot. It's actually on the North Idaho Junior College campus, and it's a drive right along the edge of the river. And there's one special spot where you could see the cove, and you could see the little boats nestled in the harbor, and you could see the paragliders and the various small boats, the catamarans actually, that are waiting along the shoreline just for the company of visitors that may spend their day out on the water. It's a lovely spot. And there are a lot of folks that come and just sit and enjoy volleyball games and enjoy the beautiful sun. It is a lovely place to be. It's not always snow and it's not always cold. Coeur d'Alene has some beautiful weather times. And I don't want to be a good traveling person because I really hope we don't have too many more people that come. We've had an immense increase in population. But today, let's look at how we would begin this drawing. And to start with, you locate the horizon line. And in this case, it is about halfway down from the top of the paper, and you draw that horizon line in directly across from side to side, and be sure you're level. Sometimes we have to measure just to make sure it is a level line. Now, the first thing that the artist does is to do a thumbnail sketch. And I'm going to show you the first one, which is a vertical, and this is a possibility. Again, this is the horizon line, and the little thumbnail sketch, you just sketch it up here in the top of the picture. And I notice that there are overlapping hills over here, and wonderful clouds are going to be added, although the photograph that I have of this spot, which is called Rosenberry Drive, doesn't show much of a sky. It's always just rather pristine and clear. But today I'm going to put a series of clouds for interest, and I will show them in perspective. The larger ones here in perspective, moving to smaller ones down at this area. Now, these mountains can be done lightly, and then a little darker, middle value, and then this section of land in dark value. Now, there are three values, and on the easel over here to the right, I'm showing you, to my right, your left, you're going to see the value study that is made, and it's done in middle value, the little picture on the right. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate in value today, as soon as we get a decision made as to which of the formats we're going to use. This vertical format has some real possibilities, but let's look at the horizontal format. Again, we put in the horizon line, and we show perhaps a vanishing point over here, and we show the overlapping mountains, and we show another mountain now that is more visible because of the horizontal view, and it will be this one in this area, the middle area. And the wonderful thing about this are the vertical trees. And these vertical trees have something very special. They have cast shadows that move right across the land. So this diagonal line will help reinforce the diagonals that will be captured with the catamaran boats that are here in the foreground. And there are a whole number of them that you can possibly see in the little photograph, probably about 7 or 8. And I'm only going to choose to put 3. Now, numbers are important, and 3, 5, 7 are usually the artist's numbers. That makes it just a little bit less symmetrical. So we have 3 vertical masts, and then we'll have cast shadows from these little boats, and perhaps cast shadows that will be high reflections down into the water. I'm going to choose the horizontal view instead of the vertical view. And now let's start. We've already placed our horizon line. And now this is the horizontal distant mountain. And it is a light value. The light value like this. And there are smaller trees out on the very end of the peninsula. Unfortunately, many of these are falling down. We have very high wind on occasion, and these just come down. They're very, very unstable. They're out on the end of the peninsula, and they cast beautiful shadows down into the water. And this is why a photograph is really important, to keep a memory of the way it once was. Unfortunately, it doesn't always stay this way through the years. Things change. Now, this section is done in middle value, and I'm just going to show you that with my 2B pencil, and a 2B sketching pencil is the one that you should use on good watercolor paper. I could use several different degrees of lead pencil on just a sketch paper because it won't damage the surface. But a good piece of watercolor paper should not be damaged or erased very much. And that's why we prepare a complete sketch before we jump out and venture out into a beautiful piece of paper. Now I'm going to show the rocks in a dark value, and this is a stunning contrast of light, middle, and dark value on the distant shore. And this will be the most important part of the picture. All right, and I'm showing you these rocks and increasing the value even with a double E pencil. And by pressing down really hard, I'm able to show you the dark in the middle and light. Now these shadows are sometimes from the cloud that will be above. Clouds also cast shadows upon themselves, which is called shade, and they also cast shadows on the mountaintops. This mountain is just loaded with trees. And so we start by the ground area, as I've already showed you, and then the next thing is to do the trees and just give a suggestion of how beautiful and majestic they are. Now the size element moves from smaller over here, larger here, and much larger as we come into this shoreline. And this area also has a lost tree that fell, and it was right on the end of this peninsula. Now we already said a few minutes ago about the cast shadows, wonderful cast shadows that will carry the eye up the hill on this side, and then this is all a sandy beach, and into the water the shadows will give beautiful reflections, all of them moving with the ripples of the water. Now this is the first part of the sketch, and over in this side will be the wonderful little catamaran boats that will be in the water here, and we'll do that with our second sketch session. We're going to pick up the sketch from this point of view. We have completed the light in the middle value drawing. We have chosen the vertical and the horizontal as preparation sketches. For the big painting, we're going to do a horizontal sketch. So I direct you to the top picture, and this is a value study. And it's really a little bit difficult to do this, just to let you know, but I believe it's essential as you begin your progress towards being very comfortable with drawing and painting. So I'm going to take a look at this picture and see it as a single shape. There are values of light and middle, and then there will be a value of dark. And these separate peninsulas are areas of light and dark. Now I'm just going to sketch in the shoreline, and I'm going to include these little catamarans, and they will be right in this area. And I think you could see them in a line sketch. Now what's difficult for the artist is to know that they're painting a shape and they're not painting a boat and they're not painting a figure. They are painting light, middle, and dark. And we're going to preserve the lights by leaving the paper white. And we're going to begin with a light value over all of this and showing some reflections down into the water. And then we're going to show all of these wonderful sequoia trees as a single shape and casting shadows down into the water. There is a figure, and it will be shown as a single shape. Later on, we will highlight it, and the dark value will establish the details. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch aquarelle brush like this, and I'm going to start on my thinking area in my palette, and I'm going to start with 2 colors. I'm going to use a cerulean, and I'm going to put it right here in the thinking area, and I'm going to add to that just a little bit of cadmium red, and it produces a soft gray. Now I'm going to put plenty of pigment and plenty of water so that this will be a puddle that I can easily get into and won't have to go back and make some more and probably end up with a different chroma. So I want this to be equally between the cool and the warm. All right, that looks just about right. Now I'm going to come right straight through here with this and not even worrying about details because this is light value. What I will do is leave a few slightly lighter areas so as I get back in there, I'll be able to find the hillside that is actually quite a bit lighter in a couple of places. So I'll be sure to leave that. All right, back to the thinking area and the puddle. And I didn't really have quite enough, so now I have to do some more. And this whole entire area of trees is going to be a single shape of trees and color. And then down here, there's some lights that are going to be moving diagonally across this area. And this is the beach. And of course, there will be a few areas where there might be a rock that interferes with a clear shadow. But I still want to go back to the same general middle value. And here's where the hard part is, because we're looking at these little catamarans, and they're all a similar value. And I want to paint them all in just like this, and not be afraid of losing their shape, because we are doing a value study. All right, now for the most part, I've left white so that coming back in as I begin to actually paint the warm and cool underpaintings, and that will come next. And this has more of a brown tone than this one. This is a it was leaning towards the blue. This leans towards the red, both of which are gray value. This is a warm gray. This is a cool gray. But they essentially are doing the same thing. This one shows just the whites. It shows all of the middle value. This one is doing pretty much the same thing with a little bit of a difference because I wanted more of the white to come on a diagonal up the hill. And these shapes down into the water also should be included. And there was a tree on the end of this. It's kind of gone now. It was blown down in January. All right, so now we have a middle value in the warm tone. We have the cool value, same kind of thing. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that value to middle value, almost to dark value, and I'm going to use the same colors but less water. And that's the clue. That's what you do. The same colors, moving it up in chroma, and I'm going to use cerulean and cadmium red medium. All right, now this hill is going to have darker trees, and it's going to have more trees placed here in a dark value. So I want to start emphasizing their structure, and a structure is, of course, your trunk and your limbs and the foliage, the outline of the foliage. So I'm going to begin detailing those trees up on the hill, and they are actually going to be casting shadows, and there is a decided drop in the hillside, and you can see that with some light patches of earth that show up here and there. But these wonderful trees just fill that hillside. So this is still middle value, but I'm becoming a little bit more detailed. And again, it's still just a shape. I haven't really shown the trees, just the fact that it is a shape. And this helps a person as they're developing their skills in drawing, that you learn to see value and you learn to see shape. And it will help give you a much better, more painterly picture. Now, in the foreground, right along, or I should say, pardon me, at the shoreline, as you come right down to the water's edge, there are dark value rocks, and this is stunning, and I'll bring that up in a few minutes. Now, the value in the middle area here is also going to be a single shape, and you just kind of scubble the side of your brush because these are very full and wonderful trees, and doing all the little twigs is really an impossible task, so we have to see it as a full shape. All right, and then we have a little bit more value in here on the side of these little boats, and we begin to find lost and found edge as we see the second value increasing. So now I have a little bit more definition for these boats. And also I'm going to show a bit of cast shadow along the beach underneath the boats coming in this way. And I can lean that shadow to the cooler side if I want to. There's a lot of latitude when you use warm and cool. Maybe I'll just move it to the cool shadow. That'll be good. All right. The next thing to do is to see that this figure has a cast shadow. And again, I don't know that I want to commit to a dark cast shadow yet. I think that I will leave that for a third value. And I'm going to take a moment and just take that middle value and cast some shadows up on this hill. And this tree actually comes down a little bit further, this one. All right, and the cast shadow is going up the hill, very strong design. And the cast shadow from this man on the beach and down into the waters. And perhaps on this side of this figure, we began to define him a little bit. And you could do that just with shadow. And the tree that was blown down, it deserves to be there. It was same thing out here. All right. All right, now I have middle value and light white value, which is seriously light. Then I have middle value, and then we'll have dark value in a few minutes. So that ends this